morning, good evening, good night, wherever or whoever you may be. I am Alan Arante, and this is the Recluse podcast. Today's guest is Muzikman Edition. He is a DJ from Brooklyn, New York. He was previously nominated for a Grammy. He was a regular DJ on the popular New York City hip-hop radio show, The Underground Railroad, with Jay Smooth. He is featured on SG House regularly and currently does a live Twitch stream twice a week. You can find him on Twitch, Mixcloud, SG1 House, all social medias. Those links will be given to you in the description. I first learned about Muzikman Edition after seeing a post of his online. He posted a picture of himself when he was 4 or 5 years old. He is now 51. Here's what he wrote in the caption. On this birthday, I reflect on my life and the current year, 2020. Pictured is a happy little boy, devoid of recognizing the differences in color of people and filled with innocence. People were just giant-sized humans. But as I got older, living in communities of color and growing up poor, I realized that I didn't have what some other kids had. Seeing a doctor or a dentist on a regular basis wasn't a thing. Home remedies was the doctor for headaches and stomach aches. My mother and a bit of my father warned me to be careful, basically instilling fear only children of color experience. Now at this age, I am more aware of things, but I still have that fear only children of color experience. I'm 51 now. Finally, after George Floyd's murder by the hands of the police, eyes are no longer wide shut. They are opening. It took the span of all these years, but it is a gift to me under unfortunate circumstances that eyes are opening. Happy birthday to me. I was deeply moved by those words, so I arranged to converse with the man. So with great pride and without further delay, this is a portrait of Muzikman Edition.
Yeah, I was born in Brownsville, Brooklyn, believe it or not.
Wow. Have you moved around in your life, or have you pretty much stayed in New York?
All my life in New York.
What's so special about New York? I'm just a California guy. I've been to a couple states on the West Coast, never been to New York. What's so great about it? What's not so great about it? Is the pizza really better out there?
Let me answer that. Well, New York is great, and this kind of defines me. I like to discover all different races, nationalities, and New York is the place for that. Like you can, I'll be honest with you. I had dated Spanish women, Black women, Chinese women, Jewish women, Italian women. And I have all kinds of friends, all different shapes, sizes, color, creed. I wanted to be, New York was just a place for me because I wanted to be different than the stereotype of, what a black man is supposed to be by other black people. So I just wanted to do things different. And New York was perfect for that.
Wow. So yeah, New York really, what you're saying is it's true what they say. New York is really a melting pot.
It really is. It's the center of the world. That's what I believe.
And, you talk about all these people that you've, been involved with, friends. Does that also stretch to cuisine? Are you also a fan of Italian food, Chinese food, all these different cuisines?
I'll eat anything. I really like to taste. I really like to explore different foods. It's just great. You can learn some cooking tips from different kinds of foods and apply it to the stuff you like, things like that.
Where does that courage come from in terms of eating different foods? Is that just the result of being a New Yorker, or is that something that was ingrained in you by your parents or your buddies or something like that?
I could tell you it started with my father, who would eat anything. Didn't matter. He would eat anything. And he would, teach us when he was around about eating different foods, but mainly Southern different foods. But he would have Spanish food and share with me. So that kind of started it off.
Was he also like you in the sense that he had Italian friends, these kind of friends, those kind of friends?
Yes. My dad was a auxiliary policeman, and so he just wound up making a lot of friends. He was always a friendly person, very outgoing. So I assume I picked that up from him. But the other thing I picked up too was I was really, because of living in New York, I was really quiet, a shy person. And I would just sit back and analyze other people, other races, and see what I could pick up from there.
Yeah. What's some of the strangest stuff that you've eaten?
Well, I had snails.
Is that escargot?
No, I went to, when I got married, I went to Taiwan, and I had, for our wedding, party, there were all kind of different foods. There was snails. There was like all kind of stuff there. And again, my father ate everything. He's like, "Oh, what's this? What's this? What's this?" He ate everything.
Wow.
And my mom, she wouldn't eat anything. She was like, "What's that?" Like, she's so picky with food.
So your father, you say he was, you make him sound adventurous, the kind of people he was willing to engage with, the kind of food he was willing to engage with. Did he really live with a sense of adventure in all aspects?
Not totally, but he was a go-getter, so I kind of got some of that from him, but I think when he left when I was really young, maybe 9, 10. So I had a lot of the other stuff. I got some of it from him, but the rest I picked up on my own. And I think a majority of it started when I started working at, like a corporate job, cause you see all different kinds of people there.
Yeah.
So that helped me a lot. I used to play in basketball tournaments, different neighborhoods. So you kind of make friends there too, but here and there.
Yeah. My father, he left when I was maybe about 4 or 5, and only, I'm 30 now, but only recently, maybe the last 5 years, I would say, only the last 5 years we've been in contact and have gotten dinner a couple times. So I can sort of understand a little bit of what you're saying. But you said that your father, he was there with you at the wedding party. So that means, did he come back? He not?
So my father was an alcoholic, right? And he left, and I used to see him come back to the house. He would come home drunk. And then there was a long period where he wasn't around. Then he came back around, and then he stayed around for a little while. He passed away around 5 years ago, but, so yeah, he was, he would come back around, try to make a relationship with me. And then he wound up going to Taiwan for my wedding.
So he wasn't gone totally. He was just sort of in and out.
And then there was a long stretch where he was like, I didn't have that father to borrow his car in high school and take someone on a date, or, I used to see all that stuff and feel pretty sad.
Yeah. I'm curious how that affected you, because, just from personal experience, like I said, my father left when I was 4 or 5, and every single Father's Day after that was just sort of an awful day. I felt very, awkward in school. Every year in school on Father's Day, it felt very awkward. I couldn't make the Father's Day card that everybody else was making, or if I did, I didn't say much about it. Was that your experience too?
Exactly. Exactly. Because, like sometimes I would look out the window. I knew what his car sounded like, or at least I thought I knew. Sometimes I would stand at the window looking down the block to see if he was coming home, coming back. And then in school, I didn't have like you said, Father's Day come around. I didn't have someone to give a Father's Day card, like you're the best dad, whatever, I didn't have that. So I just had to deal with it. It turns out I had to be the man of the house, if, whatever that means. But,
Yeah. Did you have siblings, or do you have siblings, I should say?
I do. I have 2 sisters and a brother.
And are you the oldest?
No. I have a brother and sister who are older from a different father. And then I have a younger sister from my father and mother, and then I have another half brother from my father's side.
Yeah, I have a situation like that too. But I was in my household, I was the oldest, and I also sort of had that experience of being man of the house. And I don't know what it was like for you. You said the word sad earlier, but I remember my youth. I think I had a lot of anger. I've since gotten rid of it. I've since developed, but I just remember my younger years having this rage that I couldn't explain. What emotions were going on in you for that time span where your father wasn't around at all?
Believe it or not, I was hopeful that I would see him walk around a corner or walk through the door or just show up at my school. I was always hopeful. Like I felt sad at times when he wasn't around or if I was looking for him, but I don't know why, but I was just always hopeful. Like I didn't understand why he was gone,
Yeah. Did you ever lash out at your mother or somebody else, I guess, did it affect your relationship with your mother? Were you closer to her after that? Did you resent her, or what was your relationship like with your mother during those years?
Supportive, because I could see how hard this was on her. She had to pay all the bills herself, and she was a housekeeper, so there's not much money in that. And there were times we go to the supermarket, some things I wanted I couldn't get. So yeah, I could see it was tough on her. So I didn't have any resentment. I just didn't understand why he was gone. I mean, at times I would ask her, like, did I do something wrong?
Wow. Did your dad ever explain to you, or did you have to just sort of infer what happened?
He never explained, and I never asked him. To be honest with you, that hope turned into happiness when he finally came back.
Wow.
So I was just happy, but I never. So like when he had his stroke, I don't remember who told me, but I know the doctor told me that this is going to be fatal. That maybe it was a doctor. He's like, this is going to be fatal. He's like, if you have this is the time to forgive him. Basically.
Do you remember what you said?
Yeah, it was about him not being there.
Wow. Was he conscious?
He was conscious, but he couldn't speak. Like for a while, for a couple of months, he was unconscious, and then he became conscious. And I would try to talk to him, and he would just turn his head away because I guess he was embarrassed. He was a proud man, and I think he was just embarrassed that he was in that position.
Yeah. Do you feel, is there some comfort that you have in having said what you said to him before he passed away?
Yeah, totally. Totally. My brother did the same thing. My older brother did the exact same thing. At this point, I feel fine. I wasn't able to mourn because the other people, my sisters, didn't do that. They didn't take the time to forgive him or whatever. And now they're still kind of mourning. And, my mom, she's still suffering from it. But yeah.
Yeah, I kind of had a similar situation with my grandfather. He passed away I think 2016 from lung cancer. And
Oh man.
and I didn't, like I said, I didn't have my father around my whole life, basically. You know, he just showed up a couple years ago and we've since sort of connected, but my grandfather was really my father figure. So, you know, it was like my dad died. But
Understood. Yeah.
But my grandfather, the last 2 or 3 days that he was alive, he was just unconscious. But I remember the last conscious moment he had. It was me picking him up because he was so frail and weak and in pain that I had to pick him up from his seat to lay him on the bed. And that was the last conscious moment we had with him. But he laid down and we just knew how close it was. And I don't know that he heard me because he was unconscious, but I at least got to say the words to him while he was alive and just thanked him and told him that I hope you were proud of me and that, you know, you were my hero. And I think that
that's wonderful.
I can appreciate what you said, how you said something to the effect of it helping your mourning process. You were able to mourn and sort of move on because you got to say what was in your heart.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And say it while he was aware, you know, or could hear. Mm-hmm. You know, he couldn't say much, but I said it while he was here. Like he would just nod his head or whatever. Yeah.
And you have a son of your own, don't you?
I do.
How?
Yeah, I'm he'll be 19 on Saturday.
Wow, 19. How's that make you feel?
Old. Very old.
Does it feel like it just flew by?
Kind of, but you know, I know life moves on, and I only worry that I worry that I could pay his tuition every year. Mm-hmm. And then my only worry is that, I want to make sure he is successful in life. Like he has no worries in terms of finances, you know, things like that. So.
Yeah. How did, so the situation you had with your father and all that happened, did that influence the way you were a father to your own son? Did it inform you as to how you wanted to be a father?
Yeah, because I vowed never to leave his side, no matter what happens.
And you've been there since day one?
Day one. And his mom and I are divorced now, but I've been in his life ever since he was born.
And how does that make you feel? Because see, I'm at the state, I don't have children yet, but so I'm almost in a similar, or no, I wouldn't say similar situation than you. What I mean is that I wonder how I'm going to feel when I have a son or a daughter and I reflect on my upbringing with my own child. You know, how does it make you feel about your own younger years now that you've gotten to see your own son grow up and you were there the whole time? Does it change how you think about your upbringing?
Well, if I look back, I look at them all as lessons on top of going to school, but they're all lessons. And just as you would take the math that you think you wouldn't use in school and use it now, you know.
Wow.
Because at the time, you know, you use math. Like, what am I taking? I don't need this. But, you know, when you get older, you know you need math. You got to count your change or your bills or things like you need math. So,
yeah.
But all these experiences in life, if you don't dwell on them and you just use them to help you move forward, mm-hmm. It's really a great assist for you. And it could be even better for your children.
When you and your ex-wife had gotten divorced or it was approaching that decision, was there any fear in you like, oh no, this is going to change my relationship with my son, or were you just that more solid on the fact that you would never leave your son?
I don't think the decision I made to leave my family was good. It wasn't a good decision. That wasn't good because I left to go with another woman thinking that, this would free me up. But I think the best thing, when I look back now, I think the best thing would have been for me to either go to counseling with her or let her know, or move on my own and see if we can work things out like that. But either way, when I actually wound up leaving, I still fulfilled all my duties. Like I was with someone else and I still, took him to school. I still came and made him breakfast. I picked him up from school. I made him dinner. I did helped him do his homework, and then left. Like that was
wow.
Every single day was like that. So
wow, that's really powerful.
It's tough. Yeah, it was tough.
Is your being a good father, is that do you have a strong sense of pride in that regard, being a good father?
I don't honestly don't see it as being a good father. I just do what I feel I should do. I feel like it's my duty, like I should do it. I want to be a good father, but you learn every day when you're a father, every day. I mean, for example, when I left the house, I realized that there was some neglect on my part. Not meaning like anything bad, but I realized that, there were times when he would say, "Hey, why don't you, would you want to play with us? Xbox or, whatever." And I was like, "Oh no, you guys go ahead and have fun." That was the wrong thing to do. I'm looking back because that's spending time with him. Those are times I should have spent with him. And when I left, so I would come back, the time was limited I had. So all I did was focus on him. There was no other distraction.
Yeah. Wow. I like I said, I don't have children of my own, but my younger sister, well, actually both of my younger sisters, they both have kids. They both have 2 kids. And my nieces and nephew, they mean everything to me. I look at them and I see myself in their eyes. You know what I mean?
I understand.
Just the family, genetics. Like I can just see that I can see myself in them. And, I really, cherish that the situations where my nephew, him wanting to just play with me, him just wanting my attention. When I lived at the house, because we all lived together, we all crammed into this small house. I finally left once I got married, but, those years that I spent there, I sort of know what you mean when you say that neglect, because there were so many times where I said no, I'm too busy. And then I just lay in bed instead. And now that I'm out of the house, the times I go back there, I just cherish the time so much more, and I'm happy that I have the opportunity to use that time. God forbid, they got in an accident and I never got to spend that time and take him up on that offer to play Xbox or whatever it is. So I really cherish the time I have now. So I can sort of understand at least a little bit with what you're saying, with that undivided attention that you have with your son.
Yeah. I think that the time you spent with your nieces and your nephew, when you have a kid or kids, they're going to be your allies because they're going to help you and guide you with your kid. Believe it or not. Just from what you learned from them, you're going to pass that on to your kid.
Yeah. And I'm the oldest too, like I said. So it's funny that my younger sisters, they didn't go to college like I did. They still, well, one of my sisters moved out, but they're in a different place in their life. So, in some ways they know more than I do. And then in some ways I know more than they do. So it's funny to me to watch them develop as humans, as people. I've watched them grow up and have kids of their own. And I wonder, like, oh, how would I do it? Would I do it differently? And I sort of I sort of what do they call it? I'm a backseat driver sometimes with them, where I'm like, what are you doing? Why do you do that? I would do it this way. And they look at me like I don't know what I'm talking about.
You actually do. You actually do, because you're shaping, by asking these questions, you're shaping your future with your own kid.
Yeah.
You're going to remember those moments where you said, I would do it this way. When you have your kid, you're going to do it that way.
Do you only have one child, just your son?
Just one.
Have you, I saw a post of yours. I think it might have been a photo of your mother and your father. And it made me wonder, you're a black man. Did you ever have a talk with your son about race and what this world might be like for him?
Yeah, I did.
What was that like?
I talked to him about it when he was younger, and we talk about it now. I tried to be his best friend as well, so, I would treat him with respect, and I would talk to him as an adult, not such heavy, conversations, but I would let him know that, we live in America where the color of your skin, it changes how people treat you. No matter what color, people change how they treat you based on how you look, and I said, you have to be cautious of that. And he understood, but he has friends of all shapes and sizes. He's very friendly. So he gets it. He gets it. So anyone around him kind of believes the same thing. So he pulled in, and all his friends are okay with, the fact that I'm his dad. They think I'm the cool dad. When I used to go over there, they'd play floor hockey. I'll be the goalie. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. So he gets it.
Did you try to prime him for the world? Did you try to kind of get to him before the world could come down on him in these ways? Or did you sort of give him, let's just call it the talk, because he experienced something out in the world?
I think so. My son is mixed. So when I used to take him to school in Flushing, I used to get harassed by cops, by people, sometimes just by looks.
Oh my God.
Some people would say something. And because he didn't look like my kid, but he's actually my kid, my son,
Yeah.
So all I would do is, like, when he got old enough, I would just point things out to him. That's all.
Does that sort of, how does that make you feel? Because I'm a Mexican man in California. I can't say I know what it's like to be black on any level. The way you make it sound, and that I've heard other people make it sound, is that you just never forget you're black. You're always treated like you're
always
black.
Reminded.
And
always reminded.
And that's something that white folks, and maybe even me, I am not constantly reminded that I'm Mexican, and so that's why I can't fully understand. But how, when you're having to, explain things to your son, so your son witnesses somebody giving you a look or a cop pulling you over, what have you, how does it make you feel to have to explain that to your son? Like, what just happened?
It sucks. It really sucks. But this is what I would call street knowledge, because this is exactly what happens on the street. In the home, you don't have to deal with that. But once you get on the street, this is the stuff you got to deal with. Not just people trying to mug you or, fight you. It's all this stuff. Street knowledge is just all of this stuff, all of it.
Wow. Do you recall when you were younger, did anybody give you this explanation? This is what you're going to deal with in this world, or did you just sort of figure it out on your own?
I kind of started figuring it out on my own. And I'll tell you, my parents, they kind of made you, and I know it's because of how they came up. They came from the South, and things were very different for them back then. So
Right.
I grew up kind of believing and liking what they like, until I got old enough to start seeing the world in my own eyes and not through theirs. So just like any kid, you start questioning what your parents are telling you.
Yeah.
Even the food, you start questioning all this stuff.
Yeah. What was your folks' experience like? I mean, obviously, I know details of history and the civil rights movement, but what was your impression of what their life was like? When they were younger and as they matured into adults, do you have any idea of what they had to face in their life?
Well, my mother tells me all the time about how she was very poor. Number one, she was very, very poor. And she's been through foster homes. And it was, just alone, just being, and just in her own community where she'd be in a foster home, and the kids are kids. They don't like you. She told me of a story where her brother would sleep in front of her so the other kids wouldn't kick her.
Wow.
So she told me stories like that. And then she told me stories of how, like they would walk long distances. She wouldn't look at a white person out of fear.
Oh, God.
Like she said, when she came to New York, she was afraid of white people. Like she wouldn't look them in the eye, things like that. And I was like, wow, that's horrible.
It's just, when you put it simply like that, it just sounds so stupid. It's so unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I think that's a part of the problem is that people who are white and who aren't black, they just don't have, generally speaking, can't fathom that experience. You just walk into a store, no big deal. You walk down the street, no big deal. And so that's why it's so infuriating when people say all lives matter, because it's like, well, no, you're basically telling me that I am not being treated differently. You're basically saying I'm treated just like you, and I'm experiencing something different than what you think.
When I went to China and Taiwan, and they experienced something similar there. Darker skin, and I know this is based on black people's darker skin. There is you're dirty, you're not clean. So people there want the really pale skin. They don't get much sun because that's beautiful there. That's considered really beautiful. So it's all over the world. It's just America is the worst. And also, if you look at America, they don't, they call you, they say Black American, Mexican American,
right,
Spanish American. If you go to Canada, you're Canadian first.
Oh, wow.
Then you're Black, or then you're French, or then you're Chinese.
Right.
But only in America, you're Black American.
Wow.
American should be first.
Right.
And even the craziest part is let's say I went to Croatia, and they said, you're American Black, right? They say American first. It's freaky.
Wow. I mean, how does that make you feel? Does it just make you feel like home is a crappy place, or does it? Do you feel?
It sucks. Yeah, it sucks. I mean, there's still some racism in other countries, but it's different. It's really different. It's really different. And like you go to France, it's different there. There's still racism. They know there's Black French, but it's just different. It's different in the U.S. If I walk into a store in France, I don't feel like I'm stealing something. But if I walk in the store here, I feel like I feel like I'm stealing something and I have plenty of money to pay for it.
Yeah.
It's a shame. It's hard to shake that feeling. Or if like you see a cop and you're like, make sure you drive the right speed, or you're walking, make sure you're doing everything right. So you don't.
Wow.
I spent my whole life trying to avoid police, period. Avoid trouble. I just want to be happy. That's it, without any of this stuff. But this is embedded in the U.S. and in the United States of America. It's embedded. It's going to take a lot for it to go away. A lot.
Are you hopeful or optimistic at all with the current social climate, with all that's happening out in the streets and all the white people that are out there protesting in the name of black people? Are you optimistic at all?
I am, because now all the white people that get it can explain to their white friends. And if their white friends don't get it, they're going to lose a friend. Because they totally get it. Now, I'll tell you, my girlfriend is white. She gets it completely. Gets it.
Wow.
So.
It's so unimaginable to a lot of people, that you could feel, you got money in your pocket, you're a successful man, yet you still feel like you're stealing something when you have no intentions to steal at all. That really is infuriating to me, that a whole class of people, or just based on your looks, could foster that difference in society just because you're a black man, that's how you're treated, despite let's say the social status you actually have. It's infuriating. I can't even imagine what it must actually feel like to be the target of that.
And it's even harder to explain, to tell you the truth. Like it's inexplicable that somebody would just think, first of all, that the person himself, like myself, is thinking that, and then you're thinking that somebody else is watching you think that, or it's
I mean, does this do those situations, and I would imagine that there's a lot of other situations like that. You go into a store and they make you feel like you're stealing. You see a cop up ahead, you try to stay behind. All these different little things. Do you find yourself, maybe if not anymore, but at least when you were younger, having to develop these strange defense mechanisms for these situations where I'm making this up now, but where you keep your hands visible in strange defense mechanisms?
When I was younger, the older I got, the more aware I got of those mechanisms. Maybe I did them before, but I wasn't. Just think about it. When you're younger, you only go places where your parents, or in your case, your grandparents took you.
Yeah.
But when you get older, you start going to many different places. So you start to feel it more and recognize it more. Like, for instance, I went with my ex-girlfriend, who was also Canadian, Chinese. We went to we just took a ride. We were going up to shop and took a ride to a place in Connecticut. Stopped there. When we got in there, you can just feel the energy. It was wrong. It was off. I felt it. She didn't feel it.
Wow.
They were trying to figure out who was going to serve us.
Oh my God.
Like, who was going to serve us? And when the person put the menu down, here's the menu, like just kind of shoved it on the table. Here's the menu. They didn't open it and hand it to, and I told my girlfriend at the time, I was like, we got to leave. I was like, let's just go. I don't feel this. I'm not giving these people my money and they're making me feel like this.
That pisses me off so much. That it's not a world I want to be in.
Yeah.
And was that new to you? I mean, I know the answer to that question. I'm sure it wasn't new to you, but is it sort of a feeling, when you get stitches, it's possible to take them out too early. Every time this happens, do you feel like you're just getting the stitches ripped out every time? It's like the wound just will never heal. You're just repeatedly being targeted like this.
In some cases, I'm glad I know. I'm glad I'm aware of it, because a case like that, I'm not going to give that establishment my money. They don't deserve it.
Yeah.
So I walk out and spend my money elsewhere where I'm welcome. So I'm actually glad I know it.
Right. Okay. So as opposed to like, a few years earlier, you might have sat there and been served and then be treated poorly. Whereas now you just know situations better as you're growing older. Every year that goes by, you learn more and more, and you can sort of adapt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of my grandfather. I talk about him a lot because he was like my father. I learned a lot from my grandfather.
Yeah, I get it now. I understand.
I always remember the story. These little stories about him. I never forget them. But my grandfather was a proud man, and I remember once he out here in California, there are a lot of grocery stores, but there are two main ones around here, Ralph's and Vaughn's. Very similar. You probably couldn't tell the difference if you went to either of them. But
okay.
But my grandfather, he was like committed to one of them. I can't remember which one it was. It might have been Ralph's. And they treated him a certain way one time. I don't know what it was, but my grandfather was very proud. And that one instance, I can't remember what it was now, but that day, he's like, you know what? I'm never going there again, because I know I'm going to come to a grocery store once a week, spend over $100. This company doesn't deserve, however much money I would be spending here in a year.
Exactly.
And that always stuck with me a lot. So it's interesting to me that you sort of say that with this one restaurant. So the girl you were with, the Canadian Chinese woman, what was the conversation like when you left?
She always likes to act. She always liked to act like she knew what was going on, but I could tell she didn't know. She's like, "Oh yeah, I recognize it." She didn't. She really didn't, because she had a question mark on her. I could see it on her face. Like, right. Why do you want to leave? And I was like, let's just get out. I'll explain outside. And then I had to explain to her. That's how I knew, because I had to explain to her what the situation was on the inside. She couldn't feel the energy.
Wow. And you felt it immediately.
Yeah, when I walked in there, I could feel it. It was just kind of this dry energy. It wasn't warm. It was like a dry, almost like your lips cracking or something. Need, or like kind of like that. Man. And then if you pay attention, I've noticed a lot of things, and I could see the three of them just kind of standing together, looking over, and trying to decide who is going to serve this table.
I can't believe that. You could just see that in their eyes and in their body language. They're sort of looking at each other. Who's going to take this one?
Yeah.
God, that is just ridiculous. Man, I have just a couple more questions. I know you're also you're a DJ, so I mean, I don't want to bring the vibe down this far, but I think this is very informative. It's very interesting for me to hear your perspective. So I hope you don't feel like I dug too deep.
Hey man, I'm fine, man. Hey, it's fine.
So you said that you were a Grammy nominee, right?
So my old friend Dean Landau, I met him at this club in the city called the Bank. It's not there anymore. It was an old bank. It's called the Bank, and we met another one of my friends there his name is Tony Touch, and we all met there, and I told him what I do, and we kind of hit it off, and he pulled me in the studio, and we started working on this. He had this artist named Michelle Weeks, and she did this song called Burn. So he did like some of the keyboard stuff, and I did the drums, and I helped him arrange the song, and record the vocals, and the song got nominated for a Grammy.
Wow.
It's a very simple song, but it got nominated for a Grammy. He sent me the notice that we got nominated. I got a note in the mail. Honestly, I can't find it now. It might be in my ex-wife's house.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty cool, man. And I remember getting actually I got a write-up in Billboard magazine by this guy named Larry Flick. He used to do the dance music stuff.
Yeah. And did you get to go to? I'm not that familiar with these award ceremonies. Did you get to go to the award ceremony?
No, you get nominated, but they don't do. They usually do the high caliber nominations. They don't because I think a lot of people get nominated, but I think they do the high caliber, the ones who they assume they think that will be truly nominated, like who has a chance to win.
Yeah, yeah. And,
like that.
And what genre do you do? Is it? I listened to some of it. It seemed like dance music of some kind. What do you call it?
It's soulful house.
And is it in fact dance music? Is it designed to be like not club music necessarily, but music that people dance to?
Yeah. So all this music, dance music, EDM, all these genres, a lot of them stem from like in the 90s, maybe really late 80s. It was called just house music. Period.
Yeah.
Just house music. So it just started developing into all these genres. And, I also went under another name, DJ 3D. And I did one of the longest running hip hop radio shows called Underground Railroad.
No kidding.
With Jay Smooth, who also has a show on Twitch too, Jay Smooth. And all I did was break underground hip hop since 1999. I played the first Eminem song on there. And
no way.
Wow. I've been in DJ battles, so wow. a lot of my house music productions have a little bit of a hip hop edge. I could still cut and scratch and back and forth. I can still do all that stuff now. I'm a little bit rusty, but I can still learn a scratch. I'm learning a new one now. So yeah, it's just stuff I love,
Do you spend a lot of time listening to music, like throughout the day? Do you spend a lot of time making or listening to music?
Well, I have a day job, but music is always in my head. And it's always there. And sometimes I get ideas and I'll jot them down in my notes. And then when I get home, I'll come and see if I can put it together at home. And sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes the ideas are great, sometimes they're not. So,
Yeah. Do you like any other genres other than house music, like jazz or anything like that?
I have a pretty decent sized jazz collection. Because I used to dig records a lot. Dusty basements and and I used to go to Rock and Soul in the city and buy records. I remember the first time I bought a huge stack. I got a job and I bought I spent like $200 on records. I had like 4 or 5 bags of records.
Wow.
That I brought home. Yeah, it was awesome.
Did you ever have the occasion, because New York, I would imagine the jazz scene, even now, I would imagine it must have been hot for decades. Did you ever have occasion to sit in on a cool little clubby jazz set?
Yeah, once or twice. There was one place over by 59th Street, Columbus Circle, I went to, and actually one of my friends at the time was performing, so I got to sit in and listen to some jazz. Yeah, it was nice. It was very nice. Yeah, very cool.
Muzikman, how can people find you? What can they look for?
Well, I'd like to every Friday and Sunday, I do a show on twitch.tv/Muzikman Edition. And because of the coronavirus, I called it Muzikman Edition's Home Alone Party. And you can also find me on SG1 House and Mixcloud at Muzikman Edition. I'm on Twitter at Muzikman Edition, Instagram at Muzikman Edition, and Facebook at Muzikman Edition.
Man, Muzikman, it's coming up to an hour. Someday I would love to talk again. You're just a great guy to talk to. You're really smooth and easy to talk to. I can see why people like you. I just have one more question, just for now.
Yeah.
And you can answer it any way you like. Muzikman, sure. Who are you?
Who am I? Well, like I said, I am a humble producer, DJ, who just like to spread music and make people happy.